Birmingham, England, autumn 2008. Thin rain streaks down the fogged windows of a Victorian house in Bordesley Green as Asif Khan signs the final document of the purchase. £75,000, cash payment, no mortgage, no questions asked. The realtor smiles with satisfaction while handing over the keys, unaware that he is witnessing the first move of an operation that will take nearly a decade to be completely unraveled. Khan, then 38 years old, a British citizen of Pakistani origin, had just acquired his first property with money coming from a business that connected the poppy fields of Afghanistan to the bleak streets of the English outskirts. 3 months later, Khan already owned 12 properties scattered across Birmingham and its suburbs: Small Heath, Sparkhill, Handsworth. Each acquisition represented a seemingly legitimate transaction, but one that hid a much more sinister reality. What neither Khan nor the British authorities knew at that moment was that every financial move, every bank transfer, every real estate acquisition was being monitored not only by the United Kingdom's money laundering detection systems, but also by the most efficient intelligence network in the world, the Israeli Mossad. The connection between Birmingham and Tel Aviv was not obvious. There were no Israelis involved in Khan's operation, nor direct connections to the Middle East beyond traditional drug trafficking routes. What united these two seemingly distant realities was a discovery made by Israeli intelligence analysts during a routine operation monitoring suspicious financial transfers between Pakistan and Europe. In 2009, the Mossad's automated detection systems, designed to identify financing for terrorist organizations, picked up an unusual pattern of monetary movements originating from Karachi bound for the United Kingdom. Initially, Israeli analysts believed they were facing a possible terrorist financing cell. The transfers followed a typical pattern: fractional amounts, multiple recipients, extensive use of the Hawala system, and timing coordinated with geopolitical events in the region. However, as the analysis deepened, it became evident that it was something different but no less dangerous. The transfers were financing a sophisticated drug trafficking network that used legitimate commercial routes between Pakistan and the United Kingdom to smuggle heroin on an industrial scale. What made this case particularly interesting for the Mossad was not just the scale of the operation, but rather the geopolitical implications. The network controlled by Khan was indirectly financing extremist groups in Pakistan and Afghanistan through a percentage of the profits that returned to the country of origin. Every kilogram of heroin that arrived at British ports generated resources that partially found their way back to organizations representing direct threats to Israeli security. This discovery transformed what had begun as a routine investigation into a priority operation. The method of infiltration chosen by the Mossad was characteristic of the organization: discreet, technologically advanced, and absolutely deniable. Instead of direct intervention, the Israelis opted for a strategy of selective intelligence sharing with British authorities. The first contact was established through official channels between the intelligence services of the two countries, presenting the initial findings as results of investigations related to the fight against international terrorism. In March 2011, the National Crime Agency received an intelligence report apparently originating from European sources regarding suspicions of money laundering involving properties in Birmingham. What the NCA did not know was that behind this report was an Israeli operation that had completely mapped the financial structure of the Khan organization through financial intelligence techniques utilizing big data analysis, interception of electronic communications, and infiltration into Hawala banking systems. During the following 3 years, while the NCA conducted its official investigation, the Mossad maintained a parallel operation that functioned as a shadow to the British inquiry. Every discovery by the NCA was anticipated by the Israelis, who frequently directed the attention of British investigators to specific aspects of the operation through carefully orchestrated leaks of information. This method allowed the British investigation to progress in a seemingly independent manner, while the Israelis ensured that no crucial aspect of the network was neglected. The sophistication of the Khan operation justified this extraordinary attention. Between 2008 and 2016, The organization had imported approximately 200 kilograms of pure heroin from Pakistan, using a network of legitimate textile import companies as a front. Containers arrived at the port of Felixstowe, marked as shipments of fabrics, but hid secret compartments containing drugs with an estimated street value of £20 million. This heroin was then distributed through a network covering Birmingham, Coventry and Nottingham, generating annual profits of approximately £6 million. The most impressive aspect of the operation was not just the scale of the trafficking, but rather the sophistication of the money laundering scheme Khan had developed. Functioning like a legitimate corporation, the organization had specialized divisions: import, distribution, finance, and property. The real estate division was particularly ingenious, using a combination of shell companies, family strawmen, and geographically distributed acquisitions to create a seemingly legitimate portfolio of 59 properties. The Rampage Fitness Academy, located in Birmingham, served as the nerve center of the laundering operation. Officially, the gym had 200 members and generated a monthly income of £26,000. In reality, only half of the members were real, and the gym served as a counting and distribution point for illicit cash. The Israelis discovered that the gym also functioned as the network's communications center, using encrypted communication equipment that was regularly updated to avoid interception. What most impressed the Mossad analysts was the operational discipline of the Khan organization. Weekly family meetings were held to coordinate activities, but always disguised as traditional social gatherings. Sophisticated verbal codes were used in all communications, and the organization maintained strict security protocols that included regular rotation of cell phones, use of encrypted messaging apps, and basic counter-surveillance techniques. This discipline, however, was not enough to escape the combined surveillance of the NCA and the Mossad. The Israelis had developed detailed psychological profiles of each member of the organization, identifying points of vulnerability that could be exploited during the dismantling phase. An impulsive younger brother, an ambitious cousin, a cautious uncle. Each personality was mapped and analyzed to determine the optimal pressure strategy during interrogations. In 2014, when the NCA considered it had sufficient evidence to proceed with arrests, it received one last contribution from the Israelis: a detailed dossier on the Khan organization's international connections that revealed links to criminal networks in Pakistan, Afghanistan, and the United Arab Emirates. This dossier not only strengthened the legal case against Khan, but also provided British authorities with valuable information about other criminal networks operating similar routes. The decision to proceed with Operation Empire in December 2016 was made in coordination with the Israelis, who wanted to ensure the operation did not interfere with other ongoing investigations in the region. The timing was carefully calculated to maximize the disruptive impact on the drug trafficking network, coinciding with a period of high activity on the smuggling routes between Pakistan and Europe. On the morning of December 14, 2016, when NCA and West Midlands police teams simultaneously executed 23 search and seizure warrants, Khan woke up unaware that his arrest was the culmination of an intelligence operation that had connected Birmingham to Tel Aviv. While he was being handcuffed in his bedroom, Israeli analysts were already compiling final reports on the success of the operation and identifying new emerging threats in the region. During the interrogations following the arrests, several discoveries confirmed the precision of Israeli intelligence. £68,000 in cash were found hidden in Khan's residence, exactly where intelligence reports indicated. Documents detailing the organization's structure were located at the predicted addresses, and the communication network was dismantled following the map provided by the Israelis. The trial of Khan and his associates, held at Birmingham Crown Court in 2017, relied extensively on evidence whose real origin remained classified. Wiretaps, financial records, and property documents presented by the prosecution had been identified and analyzed first by the Israelis, before being discovered by the official British investigation. The guilty verdict on all charges resulted in sentences totaling 97 years in prison for the 11 defendants. The civil confiscation phase, concluded in 2020 at the High Court in London, represented the largest recovery of assets in the history of the NCA up to that point. The 59 properties, valued at £17 million, were officially confiscated and their values diverted to government programs for addiction combat and crime prevention. What was not publicly revealed was that part of these resources was discreetly channeled into intelligence cooperation programs between the United Kingdom and Israel. Parallel to the criminal case, the Mossad used the information obtained during the investigation to dismantle terrorist connections in Pakistan and Afghanistan that depended on financing generated by drug trafficking networks. Operations coordinated with local authorities resulted in the elimination of several extremist cells that received resources through the Hawala channels used by Khan. The cooperation between the NCA and the Mossad in this case established precedents for future joint operations against transnational criminal networks. Intelligence sharing protocols were formalized, allowing for a faster response to emerging threats that possess both criminal and national security dimensions. Today, the properties that once made up Khan's real estate empire serve as social housing and community spaces in Birmingham. Ironically, many of the residences acquired with drug trafficking profits now house working families and rehabilitation programs for addicts. This transformation represents not only the success of law enforcement, but also the efficacy of international intelligence cooperation when directed against common threats. The story of Operation Empire illustrates how traditional boundaries between organized crime and terrorism have become increasingly blurred in the 21st century. What began as a money laundering investigation revealed connections stretching from the suburbs of Birmingham to the battlefields of Afghanistan, demonstrating the need for integrated approaches that combine criminal intelligence and national security resources. For the Mossad, the case represented the validation of a new operational approach that prioritizes international cooperation over unilateral action. Instead of conducting independent operations on foreign soil, the Israelis demonstrated that strategic objectives can be achieved by strengthening the capabilities of international partners. This operational philosophy has been applied in similar cases across Europe, always with the goal of dismantling networks that represent threats to both organized crime and regional security. Currently, automated financial intelligence systems continue to monitor patterns similar to those identified in the Khan operation. The technology developed during this investigation has been adapted to detect new forms of money laundering that use cryptocurrencies, international real estate markets, and increasingly sophisticated financial instruments. The Hawala network that facilitated the Khan organization's transfers continues to be an object of intensive surveillance. Financial centers in Dubai, Karachi, and London are continuously monitored by systems that can identify suspicious patterns in a matter of hours, allowing for much faster intervention than was possible in the Birmingham case. This enhanced capability has resulted in the prevention of several similar operations before they could fully establish themselves. The legacy of Operation Empire extends beyond the dismantling of a single criminal network. The investigation techniques developed during this case have become the standard for international-scale money laundering investigations. Training courses based on this operation are regularly taught to financial investigators worldwide, naturally omitting the crucial role played by Israeli intelligence. For Khan, serving his 18-year sentence, the magnitude of the operation that led to his downfall remains partially misunderstood. He knows he was the target of a sophisticated investigation, but he never knew that his capture was the result of a collaboration that began in intelligence offices thousands of miles from Birmingham. This ignorance is, in itself, a testament to the effectiveness of modern intelligence techniques, which can dismantle complex criminal networks without the targets ever fully understanding the extent of the surveillance they were subjected to. The transformation of Birmingham since 2016 partially reflects the impact of the removal of the Khan network. Neighborhoods that previously suffered from high rates of drug-related crime have experienced significant reductions in urban violence. Community programs funded with confiscated resources have created alternative opportunities for at-risk youth, breaking recruitment cycles that fed both organized crime and extremist movements. In Tel Aviv, Analysts continue to monitor developments in the Birmingham region as part of broader surveillance of criminal networks that potentially finance terrorist activities. The English city, apparently distant from Israeli security concerns, remains on the radar due to the connections discovered during the Khan investigation. This continued attention has resulted in the early identification of several attempts to establish new criminal networks in the region. The Rampage Gym, former headquarters of Khan's operations, has been converted into a community center offering subsidized fitness programs for low-income families. The irony of this transformation did not go unnoticed by the investigators who dismantled the original network. The location that once served to wash millions in drug profits now offers healthy alternatives for a community that suffered directly from the consequences of Khan's activities. The properties in Northern Ireland, acquired through shell companies registered in Jersey, revealed during the investigation previously unknown connections between English criminal networks and Irish paramilitary groups. These discoveries led to additional investigations that resulted in the disruption of money laundering schemes that had operated for decades without detection. Documents found during the 2016 searches contained coded references to planned operations that were never executed due to the timely intervention of authorities. Subsequent analysis of these documents revealed that Khan planned to expand his operations to include arms trafficking and the facilitation of illegal immigration, services that would have generated substantial additional revenue and created even more dangerous connections with international terrorist organizations. The impact of Operation Empire extended to Pakistan, where local authorities, acting on intelligence shared by British authorities, dismantled the source operations of Khan's network. Heroin processing camps were discovered and destroyed, and several people involved in the production and export phase were arrested. This international coordination demonstrated the effectiveness of integrated approaches in the fight against transnational drug trafficking. The encrypted communication technology used by the Khan organization became an object of intensive study by cybersecurity experts. The techniques discovered during the investigation informed the development of new interception and decoding methods that have been successfully applied in subsequent cases. The constant evolution between criminal communication methods and surveillance capabilities remains a priority investment area for law enforcement agencies. Today, nearly a decade after the start of the investigation, Birmingham remains a laboratory for new approaches to combating organized crime. The city serves as a case study for prevention programs that combine rigorous law enforcement with community investment. The resources confiscated from Khan Fund not only addict treatment programs, but also educational initiatives seeking to prevent the recruitment of youth by criminal organizations. As a direct result of the findings from the Khan investigation, the British banking system implemented new detection protocols that automatically identify transaction patterns similar to those used by the Birmingham network. These systems, powered by machine learning algorithms, can process millions of transactions daily and identify anomalies that require further investigation. The detection rate for suspicious activities has increased significantly since the implementation of these systems. The financial forensic analysis techniques developed during the Khan case were subsequently applied to investigations of political corruption, corporate fraud, and terrorist financing. The ability to track resources through complex corporate structures and informal transfer systems proved valuable in contexts far beyond traditional organized crime. For the residents of Birmingham who lived through the period of the Khan network's operation, the improvement in quality of life is tangible. The reduction in crime, increased community safety, and improved social programs represent concrete benefits resulting from the dismantling of the operation. This transformation serves as evidence that complex and time-consuming investigations can produce lasting results that benefit entire communities. The history of Operation Empire remains classified in many of its aspects, particularly those related to Israeli contributions to the investigation. This confidentiality is necessary to protect intelligence methods that continue to be used in similar operations. However, the public results of the operation speak for themselves. £17 million recovered, 11 criminals convicted, an international drug trafficking network dismantled, and a community transformed through the intelligent reinvestment of confiscated resources. The most important lesson of Operation Empire may be that modern organized crime requires responses that transcend national borders and traditional organizational divisions. The collaboration between the NCA and the Mossad, although never officially recognized, demonstrated that complex threats require equally sophisticated solutions. When criminal intelligence and national security agencies combine resources and expertise, the result can be the complete neutralization of networks that, operating in isolation, no single organization could completely defeat. Currently, somewhere in Birmingham, another real estate agent is showing a property to a buyer interested in paying cash, no mortgage, no questions asked. But this time, automated surveillance systems are monitoring the transaction. Algorithms are analyzing payment patterns, and analysts are ready to act at the first sign of suspicious activity. The network protecting Birmingham now is much stronger, smarter, and more connected than Khan could have ever imagined when he built his empire on the suffering of others.